So I'm Esmay. I am a marketing manager at SuperRare, and Nicole asked me to do this. I believe this is the second residency cohort class. Is this right?
Yay. Yes.
Yeah. The first one was so fun, and I hear it was helpful for everyone. So I hope that you find this helpful as well. And we'll do a little exercise at the end of it. So I am going to talk to you guys today about basically promoting your artwork and developing ways to do so online. So please feel free to ask questions at the end, but I'll take you through some kind of core fundamentals and hopefully some helpful ways of thinking about it as you're going about promoting your artwork. So yeah, first bit is just basically the fundamentals of building a presence online. So it's really hard, obviously, when you're making art because you're supposed to be doing that as well, and that's what you want to be spending most of your time doing. And 100% art should always like take up most of your time, but having an online presence has never been more important or as accessible for artists. And at the heart of it, really, it's all about connection and authentically explaining your artistic expression. And if you see it as a way to connect your followers and collectors of your work, then it becomes a lot easier to do. So my background, just so you guys know, is like I was a musician for 9 years, and then I did watercolor illustration as well, and I spent like that entire time basically trying to work out ways to promote everything that I was doing. So I know how you guys feel, and I've been an artist myself, and spent a lot of time working on how to do it, and also going through the emotional rigmarole of doing it as well, because it can be time consuming and it can be sometimes quite stressful as well. So I hope that you find this helpful. So yeah, I've talked about kind of connection and authentically expressing your artistic self. But having said that, you also have to remember that there's a lot of noise on social media and online, and one way to cut through it is to be consistent. So that's also kind of a key fundamental as well. The algorithms favor consistency, but also so do your audience. And so if they see you every day or every week and know when to tune in to watch your Instagram stories or to check your Twitter for updates, they'll get to know you and your artwork. And ultimately, you'll start attracting people that really, really connect with you. One other thing to mention, other than connection and consistency, is kind of engagement versus followers. So one thing that I really struggled with as an artist was seeing, loads of people with massive followings. And that can be quite daunting. It's really good for opening promo doors and the perception of success, but it's just something that you don't necessarily need. So you could have a really highly engaged audience who love your work and support your work, but have a lot smaller following. And that can be just as fruitful for you as having a massive, 3 million followers. So just wanted to put that out there as well as something to kind of think about as you are going through your promotion. So today we're going to cover content and engagement, which are both really important parts of social media as well. And we'll go over your personal brand. And that really is how you see or think of yourself and want to present that to the world. So let's kick off with that. I discovered this kind of process through talking to some friends who worked in marketing whilst I was an artist, and actually it really, really helped me. So I call this exercise the brand pillars. But basically it's your kind of 3 to 5 things that you and your artwork stand for and that are unique to you. And there really are 0 rules here. And having that, the process of like stepping outside of yourself and really thinking about like what you're saying, who you are, who you want to tell people you are, what your artwork expresses, and seeing it from the outside and understanding that like you have to communicate that to people, because you, like, I always found I was in my head and I knew what my art was saying and everything else, but I almost like needed to kickstart my mentality to kind of see me from the outside, which is really hard to do. But it really, really helped me, and I really hope it helps you as well. And one of the key things behind this exercise is authenticity. And I mentioned it on the slide before, but basically, if you can keep your personal brand pillars as authentic as possible, it'll be easier for you to continue to make content, because all these 3 to 5 brand pillars will inform what you make, how often you make it, and all the promotion that you do. So if you keep it authentic to yourself, then it'll be easier to make content, and your audience who are interested in you will gravitate towards you. People, I feel like, can see through things quite easily. Like consumers, I've always been of the belief that, like, consumers or collectors are very savvy. And the more authentic you are to yourself, the better, and you will attract people that genuinely connect with your art. Having said that, authentic can mean many things. So, maybe it's that it's authentic to you to have an alter ego that's part of your artwork. Maybe, or being authentic to yourself is talking directly about your opinions. Maybe it's being face to camera. Maybe it's storytelling, and maybe it's about being anonymous. So this kind of exercise will hopefully help you work out those and focus on who you are and what you want to say. And you don't have to think about them all the time, but if you get stuck with content ideas, it's really, really helpful to go back to these. And it will also help you figure out what platforms you want to be on and who you want to engage with online. It may also affect how you release your work and inspire new avenues and mediums and kind of ways of expressing yourself. And I'll show you an example of that shortly. So we can go through this exercise at the end. That's what we did last time with Nicole. And so this will underpin everything. So if you've already got ideas going in your head, that's awesome. So let's move on to platforms. So again, authenticity is at the heart of this as well as community, because different platforms, could be suited to your personality or the type of content that you want to put out, which will make you happier and more consistent. If you love doing live streams, for example, and showing your process, because that's really important to you, then, somewhere like Twitch is really great because it's a live broadcasting platform. So that's a way that you can kind of like see your brand pillars, or like the things that you want to put out, and bring them through all the way to kind of the platforms you want to post on. Having said that, it is worth saying that for crypto art, Twitter is really the heart of the community, and that's where your audience are most likely to be. Instagram is great too, but definitely, I'm sure you guys all know, Twitter is where the community is. And I highly recommend that, even if you're wanting to do live videos and things, posting to Twitter is a really good idea. Instagram is very visual as well, and lots of artists are on there. It's great for artist discovery. If you want to do edited videos, obviously YouTube is really helpful, TikTok as well. I personally was like a partnered Twitch streamer for a while, and I was doing music. And one way to kind of give you an example of how things can be very suited to you and your art is actually my experience on Twitch. So I street performed for hours and like everywhere. And that was actually where we connected the most with people that were really drawn to us. I don't know why. I think it was that like live, my band and I just communicated in a way that like our recordings didn't, you know? And that's something we've struggled with throughout, but street performing really worked for us. And when a gamer friend of ours showed us Twitch, I basically realized that we could essentially street perform on Twitch. And that's what it was. And as a result, we grew a following really fast. And that's where we made the most money to support our music and ultimately connected with the people that most connected with our art, and built an online following as a result, because our community found that was really great. Miko, I kind of
One
hear
sec.
quite a lot of noise. That's okay.
Garrison, your mic is on.
Yeah.
It's okay. Cool.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but if you can, Garrison, you're not muted, essentially. I don't think you can hear me.
That's all right. I can pause for a second.
I think Miko can mute if you click with red button. I don't know, like sometimes.
I can mute? Okay, wait. Let me see.
Yeah,
I have muted. Can you guys still hear him, or is he muted?
I got enough free time for me the first time she was here.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just to recap that point, basically different platforms can suit different types of artists. So it's just worth thinking about that when you're kind of working out where you want to invest most of your time and the types of content that you want to make, because whichever platform you want to post on, you know, you'll create content for that specifically, even if it's just like different dimensions. You know, if you're making like teaser videos for your upcoming artwork series, or you know, any of your drops, like Instagram grid is different to Instagram stories, and that has a different file sizes and all the rest of it. So it's just worth thinking about that all the way through to kind of whether you want to make edited videos or live stream your process. But one thing to remember that goes across all platforms is algorithms. So whatever platform it is, and they can favor different types of content, and your reach is usually about the time you spend on each platform, how much you post, how much you're engaging with others, and how much others are engaging with you, as well as how consistent you are on it. And that's kind of the same no matter which platform you're on. So it's just worth thinking, like, if you're gonna do one platform, like build your community on that, and just be aware that like when you're making content, the reach will kind of usually correlate to that. And there's other things, like Instagram has just announced that, you know, they are going to favor real content, for example. So there are these changes in the platforms that you need to stay on top of in order to be aware of the algorithms. So next up, just wanted to touch on profiles. And so this is like a really quick and easy fix when we're thinking about social profiles. So some fundamentals here. Make it really easy for people to find you and purchase your work. And in that way, think about, you know, consistent handles across different social media platforms. It just means that, like, you know, even making them consistent with like your username on, you know, whichever platform you're minting on, just so that it's easy for them to find you on other platforms. If you can make it as similar to your artist name as possible, that's great, just because other people might not know what your handle is elsewhere. And yeah, having consistent like handle, picture and bio is really helpful. And then having a link in your bio is also super helpful. So having a link tree or something similar, just so that, you know, you can show all the platforms that you're minting on and your profile on each of them. It really helps just direct people to where you want them to find your work. people love convenience, especially like if you're spending a lot of time on social media. So that is just something to keep in mind. Okay, so just diving into content, which we've spoken a bit about. This is where your brand pillars can like really help you decide what to make and what to invest your time in making. So really your content is the main way to express yourself and to drive engagement. It shouldn't necessarily just be to make content. Like I definitely went through times where I was like, I just need to create something to post today, right? Just to put something out, and that's like being driven by algorithms and stuff. But actually, it's really helpful to just think about it as a way to express yourself and connect. So to come up with what you're gonna post, ideally it would reflect your brand pillars. So if you use a program specifically or you're all about 3D modeling or AR, showing your process videos of that can be really helpful, because it can bring collectors into your world. They can see your craft, the hand of the artist, and all the things that really fascinate collectors with the art. Trying to figure out content that revolves around your practice is a really good way of doing that. Other ideas, so like process videos are always really great, but you could even extend these to like other topics. So you could set up a podcast, or you could do tutorials of your processes for other artists, or you could give utility to people through your NFTs, and like maybe they get an insight into your process videos, that kind of thing. I've mentioned live streams of painting before. Content can extend to like so many things, like behind the scenes of your setup, or storytelling. If your brand pillar is all about really telling people the stories behind your art, maybe you have characters in your art, for example, or maybe there are certain themes in your art that are very personal to you. Being face to camera could really help, or having an anonymous character do the storytelling could also help. There's basically you can kind of get creative with the way that you do it, but storytelling is a really helpful way of connecting with your audience. And yeah, I mean, content can also extend to how you release your work. If you're doing a show on Decentraland or Crypto Voxels or Spatial or anywhere like that, showing content around that could be really cool. There's basically like so much that we can do, and it's about kind of making sure that those things reflect what you want to say, because you could put out so much stuff, but you just want to make sure that it is speaking, I guess, your language. And what that will do is just make sure that you're attracting collectors that genuinely are interested, and those will be the most engaged. So just some more examples of content. For Wocious, they're all about storytelling, and a lot of their artwork is about their kind of personal autobiographical journey, and in digital and physical painting. And so they tell stories face to camera, and particularly about community and life events, process videos and behind the scenes. I've seen some stuff on Procreate, and then canvas paintings, and yeah, they discuss things close to their heart, and that's reflected in their artwork. So that's what I would say from the outside would identify as a brand pillar. And then you've got someone, like Xcopy, and their art is linked to crypto commentaries, and you can see that reflected in their bio as well as their posts. And the fact that they're an anonymous character is very much in line with much of the ideologies of the DeFi world. So you can see that like that kind of brand pillar is really coming out in their art and the way that they're communicating on social media. Some non-crypto examples as well. I've put in TikTok, and there's Talia Stanton, and their content is a lot about helping other artists talking about materials and I guess because their artwork, I mean, they are very explicit about this, expresses freedom and their own release in life and joy and freedom. So art has been a way for them to do that, and so they want to help others do it too. And so it's a lot of their content is about, you know, materials and behind the scenes, painting. They have a podcast, and a lot of their videos on TikTok is about how you can build a career as an artist. And as a result, their audience has grown with a lot of artists and also collectors who identify with the ideas of freedom and joy in life. And so that's kind of an example as well of these brand pillars kind of coming through in the types of content. There's another artist called Sophie T. They've kind of grown on Instagram as well, and one of their brand pillars, I feel, is all about not going the gallery route. And so how do they express this? They do a lot of behind the scenes. They do a lot of face to camera, a lot of blogs about every bit of running, you know, an art business, and they've really built a business with a whole, you know, studio and gallery, but they're selling them all themselves, and you know that involves a huge amount when you're shipping across the world and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of stuff there. But another brand pillar is also wanting women to be more accepting of their bodies, and they were very vocal about this. But they started painting nudes, and actually this desire really and specific, what I would call like a brand pillar, really ended up kind of seeping into the way that they presented their art. So they actually started painting nude women, and then putting on fashion shows of nude women painted in the style that they were painting their canvases of nude women as well. So it took on this whole kind of like IRL fashion show moment, and it turned into how they exhibited their work and exhibited their ideas. And this was expressed on social media as well. And actually, you know, they did applications to be one of the women walking the catwalk, and this was all run on social as well. So it's just kind of different ideas to illustrate the ways in which your brand pillars can affect how you promote yourself and your work. So moving on, there's another kind of content, and that kind of content is largely sharing other people's works. So, you know, just tagging things that you really love. This can also and should express your brand pillars if those brand pillars are very authentic to you. So you know, retweets and reshares of things you admire, things you like, communities that you're part of. This will if it should naturally express your brand pillars. And if those really come from you, and it's great for the engagement part of the algorithm as you're interacting with lots of different accounts, but you're also, you know, expressing to your audience that like these are the things that create the artistic mindset that you have, and people are always interested in that as well. So yeah, moving on to engagement. Basically, engagement is another thing aside from content that can really help people discover and share your work. And obviously, I'm sure you guys will know about hashtags and handles and tagging. You know, specifically on IG, if you're wanting, you know, someone to share your story, you have to tag them. Call to actions, like writing something in captions like, you know, like or share. There's a power in asking people and prompting viewers to, you know, do something. So say you're posting a link to your newest NFT, just saying, you know, bid now or auction is live now, check it out here. Those kinds of call to actions are really easy to miss off from copy, like when you're writing a tweet or writing a post, but can be really effective. Another thing is responding to comments and messages. So as I talked about earlier, you know, the algorithms really do kind of recognize how much time you're spending on a platform and how much you're interacting with people on it. And so, responding to comments and messages is really key. Obviously, from a human level as well, it's really important as well. Just if someone's going to collect your art, they want to have a conversation about it. Obviously, I would caveat this with scams and just being aware of the fact that we are on the internet, and hopefully, most people have good intentions, but some people don't. So just having, a bit of a guard up when you're speaking to people. Another thing that's good for engagement is something that's called engagement pods. So if you know a few artists and want to set up a group and agree to, repost and retweet and comment and basically support each other's posts, that can be really effective. And collaborations, because you've got more than one person sharing the artwork and pushing it to each of your audiences. And then there's giveaways, and honestly, people really, really love giveaways. You can build in sharing incentives, like tag a friend who would like this. Those can be really, really effective for engagement and people retweeting and basically just sharing your artwork and pushing it out there as much as possible. I can't talk about social media, having been through 10 years of it, being an artist and promoting artwork online. I cannot talk about it without talking about mental health and burnout, because I've definitely been there, and I feel like it has to be talked about. Try not to compare yourself to other people. It's so hard, especially on social media, where it's all about statistics and how many followers and likes and all the rest of it. But it's really hard to do, but it will help so much, just changing the conversation rather than comparing yourselves to other people. Try and reframe, see it as inspiration, if that helps, because sometimes it can be really, really overwhelming. There's also kind of be careful with others maybe wanting too much from you. So this can be also scams and ill intentions. Just being wary of messages you get. But I guess what I mean with people wanting too much from you is that sometimes you can get a lot of messages, say about tutorials or about techniques, and people kind of wanting to know how you do something, or expecting that you'll be able to give them a lot of time because you're posting social media. But obviously, it's hard to do that with specific messages. And online communities are amazing. You can form really, really close bonds, but you've also got to set boundaries. So you don't have to give everyone everything that they ask for. Another thing is trolling is a thing. Learning to have a thick skin, and as soon as you're visible and have a presence on social media, you'll be, you're likely to be on the receiving end of it. So just kind of trying to not be affected too much by that. And despite the consistency, if you need to take a break from it, take a time out. It's not the end of the world. It's just part of the job, and part of being an artist is also promoting your own artwork, and it's good to do, but it should never be as important as your mental health or the art that you create. I also wanted to include a slide on email, because email, so we've talked a lot about social media, but email really cuts through the noise of social media, and I highly recommend that you start building an email list as soon as possible, directly, if you can, from people that sign up from socials. So you could put a link on your socials for people to sign up to your mailing list, and because you've got to think of your mailing list as kind of your biggest fans would probably sign up, and then what you send them, you can think about that in that context. So if these are your biggest fans, those are the people that not only follow you on socials, but they want to sign up and get your emails. You've got to think about what you can send them, and what's special to you that you could send them. and you can even publicize that, you know, that's the purpose of your email list. But basically, so maybe it's like, you know, they're the first ones to know about upcoming drops, or they're the people that will get, you know, specific benefits from signing up. Basically, again, as well, like applying the same brand pillars in all your communications through email is also really, really key. So yeah, I just recommend building an email list as kind of soon as possible. I see it as important as setting up a social profile. Yeah, email is highly important. So that brings us to kind of the end of the presentation, but really to the exercise, if you still want to do it, Nicole. It was to think of 3 to 5 brand pillars, and like we can take 10 minutes and then we can talk about them and share ideas and brainstorm content ideas from there. I don't know if Nicole can hear me. Hopefully.
I can. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we can do the same as last time, maybe.
Yeah. So I think
yeah.
we took 10 minutes or 5. I can't remember if it was 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
but
I think 10 minutes might be good if we like meet. Let's say that we come back at like 45.
Yeah.
That's the hour.
Yeah, that sounds good. And yeah, so yeah, the exercise is kind of thinking about 3 to 5 brand pillars for you and your artwork, and try and keep them as authentic as possible, and really kind of step outside yourself and imagine, you know, what is it that is really core, the core like principles behind your art and yourself and what you want to express.
Well, if there's anybody that you know, can't speak or anything, like we can also like read it out from the it's not a like you don't have to do it, but the last time I think it was like really, really interesting and useful for a lot of the artists. So I would definitely recommend.
Yeah. So let's take 10 minutes and let's meet back at 45.
Before we go, is there any chance you could put up that screen where it shows the definition exactly of the brand pillars, just to refresh myself?
Sure. Hang on one second. Oh, I just closed the window. One sec. Let me just bring it up again. One second. Just going into Drive. Okay, is that all good?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, see you guys very shortly. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello. Hey.
Are we all back?
Yeah, how's everyone getting on? If we're, I think last time we just kind of kicked it off. How do we do it, Nicole?
I think there was just someone who like kicked it off for everybody else.
Yeah,
so
if anyone wants to volunteer, I guess.
Okay, I'm going to volunteer, if I may, Nicole. Hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you very much for your presentation. So I give it a good thought about how I should introduce my work, and I realized there are exactly three pillars that define every piece I'm doing. So the first pillar is that I use the same rectangular geometric shape in all of my work. So that's a black rectangle of the same proportion with a smaller black rectangle that is on the right side. So that's really visually defining all my work. So collectors know that they will find this same geometric shape. That's the number one pillar. The
Cool.
number two pillar is that there's text that is written inside this geometric structure. There's always text in the middle. That's the second pillar. And the third pillar is about the content of the text and what the text is about. That is always, it's either social commentary or politics commentary about what's happening now at the beginning of the 21st century in the United States or in Western countries. So it's a social political parody about politics around us. So these are the three pillars of my work. And thank you for introducing this way of defining the work through this metaphor of pillars. I think it's very useful.
Oh, great. Yeah, I mean, that's really cool that you have such a clear idea and of them. And I'm wondering, whether if you wanted to use them for inspiration of like what you would post about, taking those and saying, okay, so the geometric rectangles, like maybe in other things that you put on social media, so like teaser videos, for example, or like, any content that you make, maybe that rectangle also appears there, or maybe you one day do a post or an email to your collectors and explain why you're using the rectangle. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
give
absolutely.
yeah,
I have
that
not
kind of
explained why yet. So, and actually, very few people ask me. Even my collector never asked. That's an interesting question. Nobody ever asked me. I think one person ever asked me. So I need to.
Well, yeah, because but that's a really interesting point actually that no one ever asks, because I don't feel like that means that they're not interested. I think that's just like, they respect that that's your visual identity. But what's really interesting is if you do lean into that, and if you do invite people into your world and explain why, that could offer like an extra dimension to your art, and it could make your collectors like buy into it even more. Obviously, like, I would caveat this with like, if it doesn't feel good to expose these things about it, you don't have to. It's just for inspiration, for example, and you could try it out. And one thing I would say about like, marketing your art is it's a lot about trial and error. Sometimes you'll spend ages making a post and some people will just not really care that much, and they're like, oh, okay, so maybe people don't want to know about why I use rectangles, but they want to know what I think about the political commentary, for example. Like, maybe that's something that you lean into, but you've got to always do what feels right to you, but also, do it, see it, change it up. Don't be afraid to try different things, basically.
Okay,
But I think it's really great that you've identified those, and I hope that kind of sparks more ideas for you in the future.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much for this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I add something about what Pierre has said? Like, he said about repeating rectangles, like, and I always think that when we don't need to know really why you are doing something, because our process is, I don't know, like we have our process and it's keep changing. But I think if we keep repeating something or some color, some element in our work, it will like you will discover uh, by repeating. You know, like
Mm,
you will discover why you are doing this by doing and feeling. I don't know, just over
yeah.
time.
And that's something as well, like collectors and people who appreciate your art, that in itself, what you just said, is interesting anyway. Like, it's fascinating to people that aren't artists that you have these kinds of processes, and sometimes you don't know why you're using something, and then something just appears again and again, and you realize that, like, for some reason this is evolving in your art. And I guess thinking about like brand pillars is it's a way of you thinking how other people might see you, or what messages you need to give out, but also hopefully it will help you start to think of seeing yourself from someone else's perspective. And when you start doing that, you're like, oh, I could explain to them why I do this. Because to a lot of like people that aren't artists, that is like fascinating. And so yeah, I just thought what the point that you just made is really cool in itself. Even when there's no explanation, or if there is an explanation, that is something that people could find interesting. I'm just reading the comments. Is there anything anyone else wanna share theirs?
Hello. Mine is not as concrete as Pierre's. It's quite all over the place. The first thing I see as a pillar, both in me and in everything I do, is bridges. And what I mean by this, because I've lived in many places, cultures, economics. I mean, my life has been a lot of variety. I have this tendency to bridge things, bridge between points of view, between processes, between materials, techniques, tools. So I think that is one of my pillars, but maybe I need to make it more concrete.
Yeah, or
Um,
maybe or maybe not. Like, maybe that could influence so many different things for you.
okay, yeah,
Just the
I
idea.
actually, in the work I'm doing, I mix some things like 2D, 3D, and so on, and cultures also. I also write a lot my thoughts. Well, mostly thoughts. Sometimes short stories. Sometimes process, but mostly reflections, thoughts. And many times these texts are what I do my painting about.
Oh,
Not
great.
always, but many times. Yeah, and I'm actually wanting to start a blog with these little short thoughts and reflections. What else? I have like two paths in my work. One of the pillars is a single line that I use, that I mix with a more 3D painting, always 2D, I mean. And the other one is like depth. I'm looking for depth in the things I'm painting. These are my two, right now, my two, I don't know, paths, creative paths.
Yeah.
Oh, I can think of so many things. Also, I love to teach. I love to
Oh,
explain
interesting.
things and help. Yeah.
And maybe that's
Um,
a pillar for your social media. You know, maybe that's an element of what you do.
oh, okay. Yeah. I've
Well,
been doing
as
it,
in
but
it could be.
in private groups. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay, awesome. But that's really amazing, and letting people, you know that, and sharing that in different ways is kind of the kind of role of social media, I guess, is to let people know about these things. And I'm just trying to think one thing you said. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, don't feel like you need the pillars to be super specific about a thing. They could be an emotion, or they could be how to explain it? Like, so with my watercolors, what became really clear to me was that like I had to do things like made by hand, like the physical touch of the prints that I made on paper was really important, and the crumpled paper, and like all of that kind of handmade stuff became really important. So as a result of that, I showed like the paint brushes and the paint pots, and I do like zoom ins of my paint palette and like the textures of the paper. So like I guess it doesn't have to be one specific piece of subject matter or thought. It could be just a general like summation of your process as well. Like the brand pillars can extend to be so many different things. But it sounds like you've got like quite a variety there, and it's really cool. I think you could draw on a lot of those.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Mr. Ruichi.
Yeah. So there are a few comments on the chat as well.
Yeah. I love that. Crypto metaverse lifestyle, that's amazing. And vivid and flashy, like colors, and I mean these are great things to lean into. And they could be reflected in so many different ways, going back to kind of like sharing other people's art and like what you like and what you don't like. I mean, you could share things that you like in the crypto lifestyle sphere, and you could share like pop art that you really admire, or other artists that you really like, and maybe you find the most like vivid colored artists and you post about them, because that the people that follow you and like your art will likely like them for the same reasons. And yeah, there's like so many things that you can draw on for posting, basically. That's really cool. Does anyone else wanna talk about theirs?
Yeah, sure. If nobody's gonna,
go ahead.
but go ahead, Michael. I really want to hear from you as well.
Well, I was just gonna say something because I got to go and pick up my kid in a couple of minutes. So I just wanna,
No worries.
just quickly. I was just gonna say that I actually struggle with the idea about branding, like in terms of like pigeonholing myself in certain areas. And with the list that I had down, it's like maybe like 7 random things that I wrote, maybe that what I would hope that people get from what I think I'm up to, or how I'm in this space. And I guess personally, away from my art, I would like to think that people would know from me that I like to engage in the community. I like to interact genuinely with other artists. It's a very big thing when I first got into the space. Was I thought to myself, like, always make sure that like you have good, genuine instincts when you're interacting, rather than trying to project something that I'm not. And and that's led to me like making lots of friends in the community, and also collecting a lot of work. So I like to and also taking part in different projects and whatnot in the actual crypto space. So in terms of who I am when I'm thinking of social media, I hope that that's the space that I'm in.
Yeah, that's great. Authenticity is really key, and it sounds like you've nailed it. I highly recommend doing that for other artists as well.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this is what the thing is with like branding is like I get like hung up on the idea of like the chicken and the egg, like like I try to bypass that idea of like because if I start thinking too much about how I brand myself, then I start thinking about how other people should perceive me, and then that becomes my actions become a little bit stunted. Just personally,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that
No,
some people
totally.
do these things brilliantly.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah.
not easy. It's not easy. And just wanted to say to that point, like it can also change. And that's another thing with your brand pillars. Like you don't have to stick to them because as your artistic practice evolves, like they should evolve too. Because otherwise, like you say, you're gonna brand yourself, and actually you if it's really authentic to you and your art, then those will evolve because your artistic process isn't going to be static either. So yeah, I mean, maybe like if you need inspiration for posting and stuff, maybe just pick like 3 things that you think you could inspire you to post stuff, but like you can keep it fluid as well, and ever changing.
In terms of the art, because I make a lot of like AR stuff and things like that, and I was really interested in what you said about the process. I tried that a few times, and I just did one stream before actually, but I quite enjoyed that. So I think
Oh,
I might
cool.
actually pick.
Where did you stream on?
On Twitch. It was back. It was. I don't know if you know Hen, like Hickagnock, the
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, well, basically, it was it was this whole thing. It was around this time where it got hacked. It went down. There was this whole investigation about like who hacked it, and there was this whole joke about aubergines that I was doing with Mumu and Empress Trash, and we started making these aubergines, and I just thought it'd be a great idea to make an AR aubergine, and I thought wouldn't it be fun if I actually just streamed me sculpting it and painting it. And I think
wow.
I think I got one one viewer from it, but it was a lot of fun to try it out.
Yeah.
But it was like so nerve-wracking. It was like, oh, I'm not by myself anymore. When you're making work, you're just by yourself, like in your own
Yeah,
head, and no one else is in the room. But then all of a sudden, yeah, maybe it got up to like 5 viewers at the most, and I was like, oh, people in the room with me. It's really like a little bit
it's
of a naked, weird feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird. Streaming can be strange like that, but actually, well, like the more you do it, the more like normalized it becomes, and then
Yeah.
actually it gets to the point where you're like painting with people, or like you're creating with people, and then you're chatting to people, and you're like, oh my God, this is like so so weird. But it can be really cool. And one thing I would say with streaming though, like you say, like you've got 1 year or 5, the more you do it, the more kind of views you'll have, but you do have to, like any platform, like be consistent with it. If you want to grow, an audience on there. Twitch actually still has quite a big like art streaming community as well. There are a lot of kind of digital artists who stream their work on there, and Twitch is a really interesting platform because they have this thing called raiding, which is when you finish a stream, you type in a command, and it's like / raid, and then you put in someone's handle, and it basically picks up your viewers and then takes them to another channel, and that really helps with artist discovery. So yeah, there's a whole community on Twitch as well. Just letting you guys know if that's an avenue any of you want to do.
Is there any specific like ways to name the channels? Like, so if you're doing a stream, would it be like Hangout, or I can't remember the exact terms, but do you know if there's any specific ones where artists look at?
Yeah, I mean, there's like specific art tags. If you just go onto Twitch and like look at, I think they have art as a section, and just look at the tags that people are using, then yeah, I think that would help with discovery as well.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't completely about my brand pillars, but
no, that's okay.
I really enjoyed your presentation, and yeah, this is one thing I got from it. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I really want to get that going. More of the process, I think, would be a good way for people to engage with actually.
People love it. Yeah, and like collectors and art lovers love it as well. It's always so interesting, like seeing how someone creates something so beautiful. It's just fascinating.
Well, thank you. Cheers.
You're welcome.
I guess if nobody's going to talk right now, I could talk a little bit about my pillars.
Yeah, great. Go for it.
Yeah, but I also would begin with this thought that I also share with Michael, that I have a difficulty trying to like stand myself in specific points of like branding, because I think that um I don't know, my work's about a lot of times this continuous explorations of cycles. So it's never really that much consistent, I would say, in staying in the
Mm.
same thing. But for now, like for what I'm doing right now and in the past times, I think that is really, for me, is about three things. So one of them is space and unknown things. So I'm really talking about and discussing uh, unknown spaces of interconnection, whether it's like mental astral projection space, whether
Mm.
it's like outer space, this like huge ether of planets and constellations and astral relations, or even still, I'm really fascinated with the idea of like deep sea and caverns and holes under the earth, the inner earth theory, and just this whole thing that relates to aliens and everything, which brings me really to the unknown. So I think this aspect would be the first and the second one at the same time,
Mm.
because it englobes a lot of things.
Yeah.
And
I mean, already on that point, like you could share the things you're reading, like the things that are informing all of this like thought process behind these concepts. Like that's
yes,
that's something that people would relate to if they're looking at your art, and because they're probably seeing all these things in your art. And so like just giving them context of what's informing you, I think could be really cool, just as an
yeah,
idea.
that's a great idea actually. I'm a big HP Lovecraft reader, and his fiction has inspired me for
Mm,
so long. Space
great.
horror kind of aesthetics. So I guess I could really start sharing about that as well. It's a great idea. But
Yeah, and just before I forget as well, you said that one of your brand pillars was kind of, sorry, you find it hard to do your brand pillars because they're evolving, but maybe that's maybe one of your brand pillars is about developing as an artist and like evolving your ideas and not being static.
yes,
That could embody who you are and your attitude to art and life as well, and you can lean into that as a concept.
that's amazing. I love that thought about it, and yeah, I can relate to that actually.
Yeah, I
But
think a lot of artists would relate to that as well. Like as I said at the beginning, it's a really hard exercise to do. And by the way, we did 10 minutes, but like it took me like 2 months to work them out when I first like started doing it. And I was
yeah,
like, who am I? What am I doing? I was like, it took me ages because I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know. I just was
totally.
making art and I didn't really kind of think about it?
Yes, I feel the same, but I think that for me, it's like I come from a background of working a lot with graphic design. Like I've worked
Mm,
so much with that in the past that even like stopped doing it in a way, because one of the things that really bothered me about graphic design is in a lot of elements is this like rigid form of us like making art in a way, because you're like selling it to a client, and there's this whole thing about the function of it and the functionality, and I feel like I've never really gotten to that like rigidness of concrete in my concepts of art, and
mm,
it's great to be able to make work nowadays that just gravitates even to whatever the person and the viewer can interpret it about it. I just, one of the things that I most love about sharing my work is when somebody um, gives it another vision that I hadn't imagined, or says like, "Oh, it looks like this," or "It
mm.
looks like that," and I'm like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" Because I love when I don't think about something and then somebody just shows it to me in my own work. It's the most rewarding for me.
Yeah, it's very cool. Um, yeah, because you're also it's a dialogue, isn't it? Like you make something, someone sees it, someone appreciates it, and then it takes on a whole new meaning. And that's why art's so great.
Yeah, I think
Um,
about art. I think about art that way. It's just a slightly more complex way of doing dialogue and in different mediums.
yeah.
So I think it's always about dialogue. But Thank
Mhm.
you for the presentation. It was really amazing. So
You're
I'm
welcome. Thank
I'm
you.
grateful for that.
Just adding over the Felipe speech. Uh, I'm I particularly worked a lot with. I came to design too. Like I
Mhm.
worked a lot of with. Sorry, my English is not so good, but I will try.
Don't worry.
Uh, and my I came to I discovered myself as an artist before having a huge burnout working with advertising when I was 19,
Mhm.
and then I quit my job and starting doing tattooing, and I was tattooing for like 4 years, and always when I posted. Now I work with 3D, but when I was tattooing, I always thought that I should like put the photos with tattoos with something else, like I tried to make more layers in those pictures, and I was trying to get the digital process, like the after process of doing the physical work, more complex. And doing tattoos made me like those pictures. I was experimenting with design and digital art, and doing this I started like making some outdoor artworks, and I started like getting commissions with those aesthetics that I was involving. And yeah, like when I think the big part of my work was when I started realizing that I really could do 3D, like I always loved 3D, and I never thought that I really could learn these things. And yeah, like when I realized this, I just came into this and get deep in dive inside 3D design. And yeah, I was thinking about. I just note some things while saying. And yeah, I like to build my own reality. I like to transpose my affective memory through my work, like getting specific pieces of episodes from my life and connected and transpose it with my imagery. I love the idea of death inside games, because yeah, like you don't really die in games. You and I don't know, like those ideas of death and life and afterlife inside games, like is really connected with some deep relationships that I have with death in my family. And I try to play with those things. I love the concept of the UI and the UX experience inside games, and I always play with this because I came from design, and I like to play with a lot of those things. I love the internet aesthetics and spiritual things. So yeah, I'm
Mm.
yeah I'm trying to develop my English.
No, it's great.
Sorry, yeah.
It's great to hear you talk about it. And you said something about, you never thought that you could do the 3D stuff until you did it, right? Was that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah, I
like
mean, like that's so inspiring, by the way. Like it's really inspiring to other artists, but also, to other collectors as well, or just people who see your art. Like it's something that um I guess a lot of people viewing your art will gravitate towards it for certain reasons, and it may not be intentional, but you just saying, I never thought I could do this and then I could do it. Me viewing that, having my own struggle with something totally separate, may see you doing that, creating this beautiful thing, that I, because I'm following you and I love your art and all the rest of it. And I may be going through something totally different, and hearing you say that may make me buy into you as an artist more, because I can relate to that concept, and it gives me an idea of what you've been through to create that. And those kinds of things are things that social media can be really great at, actually, is enabling artists to amplify their stories. And so, yeah, I guess I feel like part of this is highlighting to you guys that, like, things that might just be kind of throwaway feelings that don't feel like they mean something, like, may mean a lot to your audience. So it's great to discuss these things.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I love their presentation. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to read out a few of the ones that have been posted, because I know a few people can't speak. So, for example, Stefan says, can't talk right now, but I have done a similar exercise to define my personal values: kindness, the full to kindness in every moment, authenticity, be authentic to yourself, meaning, live with meaning and intention, make a difference for each person you encounter on your journey, freedom is your North Star, openness, be open to opportunities and to change your mind. It's nice to see that after some time they still stand valid, and they're almost always reflected in
Yeah, they are so valid. And it's so cool to hear you talk about those things, because I think people really respond to them. And don't be afraid to kind of communicate that to your audience. I don't know, Nicole, how do you feel about the whole kind of, I know that you believe in authenticity and all of the kind of things, but I feel like the crypto art community as well is very good at being authentic.
Sorry, my connection dropped. Yeah, like I absolutely, I mean, I love this exercise. I just posted it. I just commented as well, but I was actually trying to do my own. I think I did it last time, but for me, I mean, the biggest thing for me and for vertical crypto art is definitely like authenticity. I think I actually tweeted about this morning as well. So if I had to choose like 3 pillars, it would probably be authenticity first. The second, the one that I was like writing down now, is simplicity. Like just, I guess, like keeping things like very simple, and not overcomplicating. I think that's something that is I guess something that I try to do with vertical crypto art. And the third one would probably be inclusivity. So yeah, trying to like build something that can be as inclusive and speak to as many people, artists, creators as possible.
I can really see those reflected in everything you do, by the way. I love that. I really do. I feel it when I see you in real life as well, like, or speak to you on Discord. Like it really comes over. And that's,
good,
I guess. Yeah, no, it's great. And that's what I mean about, like, it's so much easier when the brand pillars are authentic to you, because it just is so easy. Like, it's easy to create content because you don't have to think about it too much. It'll just flow.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Cool.
gonna
This
read
has
another
been so
few.
nice. Yeah,
I'm gonna read
yeah.
another few before we like hang up. But Hyper Icon, who are a creative artist duo, they said the 3 pillars we can identify in our work are working our Latin American imaginary, linking it with technological possibilities, technical AI, speculative search for post-organic entities and environments in our works as triggers to imagine new realities, and the use and sharing of generative art tools built in the community for their democratization for exploratory purposes of expanded creativity. This is awesome.
Yeah.
A few more. So Garrison says, pillars are garrison fortress everywhere. Love that tagline on every social. The second is artwork represents my general quest for knowledge and the things therein that cannot yet be visualized by the naked or mind's eye. The third is bold colors or high contrast and or saturation. And the fourth is
That's cool.
and then Gabrielle says, the three pillars are connection, as my work can be a medium to people identifying themselves, identify their thoughts on the screen, and identify with each other. Filter, as a work of materialization of the subconscious, the work of materializing lost feelings, forgotten thoughts, and unknown beings. Stamp, oneness, a stamp by aesthetic that makes all my pieces connected with each other. A metaphysical stamp, I say, but that connect my work and people know which is my pieces. A oneness that connect my piece. This oneness is very clear on my mind, and when I'm creating, I feel this, and it shows me I'm on the right path.
Oh, that's great. It's
These are actually, yeah,
really cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad this exercise is helpful, and yeah, I really encourage you guys to keep thinking about these, just because they do evolve and they do change, and hopefully they'll be helpful for you. Maybe even in your creative practice as well.
Yeah,
Thank you so
it's been
much.
really helpful. Thank you.
Great. You're welcome.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted someone.
No, I just think like those things you said about, I don't know how to separate the Twitter and things to say for the audience and for collectors. It's make a lot of sense in my head, and I never have the opportunity to get really inside those things about digital marketing and branding, and it's really good to receive this knowledge. Thank you.
Great. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Esmay. I love this class. It's like, it's just something that I think, no, it's true, but it's like so nice. And like, also I get to like know so much about like all of you guys by reading like what you post. So like, it's one of my favorite classes of the residency. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Cool.
you.
All right. Take care, everyone.